This is the card that I'm going to be demonstrating in today's video, and this is one of my favorites out of the 6 cards in this month's card class. The inspiration for this card came from me just wanting to use up the bits and pieces of Designer Series paper left over from the previous card, and it turned out to be one of my favorites. So let's get started. I have 2 die cuts. These are from the contour dies, and on my original card I used the white, but on today's card I want to use the petal pink so you can see the difference. I have a bow made from our pool party and a strip of ribbon, and now all I need are my strips of Designer Series paper. So let's pull this in. First of all, this measures 4 by 5 1/4. It's basic white. So I have 7 strips of Designer Series paper, and all of these measure 3/4 of an inch by 4. Okay, so these are all just leftover bits and pieces. And what I'm going to do is glue them onto my card stock. Now on my original card, I used the liquid glue, but I'm just going to show you how you can do the same thing using an adhesive sheet. So I have cut this adhesive sheet to be the same size as my basic white, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm just peeling off the backing. I want to make sure that this is on there really well, so I'm just going to take my bone folder and give it a little rub. And now I'm just going to take my take your pick tool and peel off this top layer. And now all my adhesive is on there. Easy peasy. Now all I'm going to do is glue my strips down. So let me see what I have. And of course you could use either side. It's hard to decide because they are all so pretty. I'm just going to start with this one. So just starting from the one edge, and then working my way down, and then at the end I'll just trim up as I need to. And I'm shy just a little bit, so obviously I have my measurements just a little bit wacky. So I'm going to grab just a little piece of paper here, and then I'll just trim that up. So I have just put my ribbon on with a piece of tear and tape, and I'm just going to position this now onto my card base. Now it's time to do the embossing. So I'm just taking my embossing buddy, going right over top of my basic white. And I'm going to bring in my flowers. I'm going to bring in the splatter. Okay, just had to clean my stamps because I've been using them and I don't want to get color on my First Mark ink pad. So I'm going to do one each of the big flower and the small flower. Okay, time for the powder. So this is the gold that I'm using. I'm going to bring my card base back in, and I'm going to stamp the splatter. And I meant to do this before I put it onto my card and completely forgot. I'll do that now. And I want to get some splatter down here, so keeping it real, I'll show you what I do when I forget steps. Is I'm just taking a piece of scrap paper because I don't want gold on my card base. I just want it on the Designer Series paper strips. So that is my workaround. Okay, so I'm going to sprinkle my powder on. I can see where my dots are, my splatter, and then if I want to add more, I can add more. just going to use a block to pick up some ink because I'm going to use my water painter to put some color on. And I like to do this because then I'm not getting too of an intense color, as you know, if I had just used my marker direct to the paper. I love using my water with my inks. So I'm just going to lightly add some color onto the leaves. Now I'm bringing in some petal pink. Clean my block. I'm just dabbing some pink on there. That is going to be for the center of the flowers. Pick some of that up. I want to keep the majority of the flower white, but this pink is just going to add a nice little pop of color to this card. So you could let that dry on its own, or you can do what I'm going to do and zap it so I can get them cut and on my card. In my elements, we have a bow, which I think I'm going to put here, and I have my sentiment piece. Maybe we'll rearrange that here. I think we're going to do that. Okay, let me stamp my sentiment, and I actually think I'm going to emboss my sentiment and keep with the gold theme. I'll ink that up. I'm going to stamp it right in the center. Don't you just love embossing? So pretty. Alright, let me grab my glue. I'm going to glue this right down onto my card first, and then I can position my flowers. So I'm going to put that right about here, not quite in the center. So now I'm just going to pick up a glue dot or two and put my ribbon on. And Stampin' Dimensionals for my flowers and leaves. Squeeze a little bit of glue onto some scrap paper. I'm just going to take my take your pick tool and just dab a little bit of glue on the center of those flowers. Wipe the glue off the tip of that. Use this end of the take your pick tool, and I'm going to put yellow inside both of these flowers, which is nice because there is yellow on the Designer Series paper too, right? So it just ties everything in so nicely. I'm using the bigger gems. And then for the inside, I'm pulling in Charming Sentiments, and I'm going to use Wishing You Everything Wonderful. And I'm going to stamp that, I do believe, with Flirty Flamingo. I'm bringing in my piercing mat because when you're stamping with your photopolymer, you're going to get a nicer, crisper image when you stamp with that mat underneath your cardstock. And of course, I gotta stamp my my little image on the back of my card, which I think I'm going to stamp Made with Love. And I think I'm going to put a glue dot, another glue dot behind that ribbon just to keep it from wiggling around too much on my card. I so love this bundle, this Irresistible Blooms. Let me show you the original that I made. Now, I just noticed this one, I stuck with the blues. I didn't use a lot of the pinks in the Designer Series paper, but both work, both look pretty, and this would work with all kinds of scrap pieces of Designer Series papers, or non-scrap. Just cut up your paper and use them to create a whole bunch of backgrounds and put on your die cuts or your sentiments. And the other thing that's cool with this technique, when you add your strips of paper, like I did before I stuck it to my card, you can actually use your flower die cuts, your heart die cuts, your circle punches, whatever you want, and then you've got your die cut with your strips of paper on, you know, to that shape, and use that on a card or a scrapbook page. But I hope you guys are enjoying this card series with all 6 cards, each in their own video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video.